Hi, I'm Peter Capaldi. I play the Doctor, and you're watching EMS Productions.
Hello everyone and welcome along to another Doctor Who review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the magnificent The Witch is Familiar. I should probably just put in a quick disclaimer to say that I am extremely tired today. I was up most of last night watching the F1 practice in Australia. So I had literally like 2 hours sleep last night, so if I'm looking a bit droopy, a bit tired, apologies. But hopefully I can still do a decent video for you guys. So, The Witch is Familiar. We come off the back of, well, The Magician's Apprentice, which I reviewed last week. Go check that out if you haven't seen that already. Makes more sense to watch them in the right order, doesn't it? But yeah, so I thought that was a fantastic episode with an epic cliffhanger to leave us on Missy's dead, Clara's dead, the TARDIS is blown up, and the Doctor's about to kill young Davros. I mean, it's a top-notch cliffhanger. And, well, one of the first clearest changes we get when we move into the second part is that it's a very different sort of different story. Almost, it's not a different story, but it's a very different style of doing it, which has been sort of the theme in all the Series 9 two-parters, where the first and second parts were very different. Because if you look at The Magician's Apprentice, I'll just call it Part 1 because it's such a long name. But in Part 1, it was a lot more scale. There's lots of locations because we went, although I've moaned about it a bit, but we did go on the Skaro battlefield, then round all those planets, Khan and Malvarim and those places, and then back to Earth in the present, then into the past, then into Skaro again, and so it was really sort of, and there were a lot wider range of characters there, whereas in this episode, it's very much narrowed down to Missy and Clara, the Doctor and Davros in Skaro. And it's just sort of a much more focused, it's almost more of a sort of character story rather than the sort of epic scale, if you like, of the first part. So I thought it's nice to sort of have the change up and more of a focus on sort of just two plot points rather than trying to do too much in one episode. And I think that's what helps make this work so well. And so we get the opening sequence, which is one of my personal favourite like pre-title sequences of any Doctor Who episode. I just think it's absolutely brilliant. I mean, Moffat just gets it out of the way nice and quickly. Missy and Clara aren't dead. It was fairly obvious, so he doesn't sort of faff about and take 15 minutes to reveal that they're actually not dead. He just literally the first second of the actual episode after the previously clip, we straight away see, oh, Clara's fine, cool, Missy's fine, cool. And then within 2 minutes later, you've already got an explanation for it, and it's all fair enough. And Moffat sort of fulfills, or comes back and explains more of the plot points of how Missy escaped in Death and Heaven. This explains that as well, so I feel like it's sort of a really good sort of giving a nice explanation for how they were surviving these things, which seemed a bit hard to explain beforehand, if you like. And also this whole thing about the sort of consider the Doctor and his kind of like how, or at least from Missy's point of view, how the Doctor's sort of brain works, if you like, and what he does in a crisis and how he can quickly work out these sort of major calculations to make the teleport work. And it's sort of just, particularly with the sort of direction and the style they did of it, with the sort of the black and white sort of nature of it, sort of, I felt really, just visually it looks really, really, really stunning. This whole series really does, and particularly this two-parter in that scene, using the black and white and the locations and everything, and that shot, it just looks, yeah, they really nailed that. And I mean, it was also nice, you just sort of saw the moment of a Tom Baker style Doctor running across, and a bit of a William Hartnell there as well for just a couple of seconds. Because I was thinking about it yesterday, because obviously the Master, it's slightly off what I was going to say, but the Master didn't come in till the 70s with the third Doctor, but he, she, whatever, have actually met every single Doctor, I think, because they would have met 1 and 2 in the 5 Doctors, plus already had met 3, 4, 5, and then 6 and 7 in the classic series, and 8 in the TV movie. Well, didn't meet 9 actually, or 11, no. Wow, okay. Yeah. Missy's never met, or the Master's never met the 9th Doctor or the 11th Doctor as far as I know. Don't think so. So, well, met the other 10. Not sure about the War Doctor though, it's kind of a different issue. But anyway, going a little bit off topic there, so it's kind of like, give it to the eyebrows. Clearly, Missy's favourite Doctor is the current one, so she picked him to star in the scene, if you like. Could have brought back any of the Doctors if they sort of thought, oh yeah, Missy just happens to be a big Tom Baker fan or a big Colin Baker fan. Yeah, let's chuck them into the opening sequence. But no, that wouldn't have worked. But no, so it's a really nice and sort of giving a classic Doctor ending to it. To end, it seems like, oh yeah, he's escaped, it's fine. No, he fell into a nest of vampire monkeys, and that's just sort of classic Doctor there, really, isn't it? Well, it was a classic story of the Doctor, if you like. So yeah, that was a really great scene, and lots of sort of witty dialogue from Missy, well, written by Moffat, obviously, but with Clara being tied up because there might be nothing to hunt. And I just love the pointy stick line. Get your own pointy stick just before the titles. I mean, it's just Moffat really knows how to write. Well, obviously, he created Missy, but he knows a lot better, I think, how to write her in this two-parter than in the series 8 finale. It doesn't quite work as well there, but it really, really works here. So yeah, and then we get the titles. So we come to, after the titles, we stumble across, or not stumble across, why would I even say that? Sort of see a rage-fueled Doctor standing behind Davros's head with a Dalek gun. So yeah, he already had a little bit of a hold of one of those earlier, although he was going to get it again later. But yeah, so it really showed his anger. That he can't, well, it was already the first hints of he can't cope with losing Clara, can he? As we saw later in the series, he wouldn't be able to cope, but it's just that first hint of how he sort of, or at least want to kill Davros to try and bring her back. So it was a pretty first sort of proper angry Doctor from 12. Well, we saw a little bit of it in Listen, didn't we? When the Doctor was telling Clara to go back in the TARDIS, but generally that was one of his sort of ragiest scenes so far, if you like, which showed that although he's sort of slightly mellowed maybe to some degree in this series, there's still a bit of that rage inside of him, which is good. Makes him, he's a bit more serious, so that's good. And then he goes and gets in Davros's chair, which is just, I really like it. It's great. It's just, I'm sure the Doctor's always wanted to try out Davros's chair. I mean, he's just cruising around in the Dalek city, in the middle of all the Daleks, in Davros's chair. As he says, I've been here 42 minutes and I'm in complete control. And of course, while this is all going on, Missy and Clara are sort of infiltrating themselves into Skaro. But I guess there's not many guards, because there doesn't really need to be many guards, does there? Although, you get the one in the sewers, don't you? So, but anyway, I love that little, when Missy just pushes Clara over the edge to see how deep the sort of the hole is, which is just another classic Missy. Well, it's becoming classic Missy style, I think. That sort of not taking it too seriously, being pretty mean, but sort of just doing it anyway because she can. And then obviously Clara gets her opportunity. Should have stuck that stick through her back, but Clara couldn't kill someone. Does she ever actually kill someone? I don't think so. Maybe she didn't, I can't remember, but I'm fairly sure she didn't directly kill someone in her time. So yeah, it's no surprise that she didn't kill Missy, although I don't see how it's going to get far. She'll just regenerate again. So that was a bit of a not great plan there, I think. So, and then of course we end up with Clara inside a Dalek, which of course harks back to Asylum of the Daleks, and I saw lots of excitement among the sort of Clara obsessed. It was nice. I'm a Clara fan. It was nice at the moment, but yeah, lots of excitement of the sort of linking back to her, or sort of Clara's first episode, Oswin's episode, which sort of just linking that back with the being inside the Daleks. I thought that was really nice for Moffat, sort of referencing it, but not in sort of an obvious way. It worked in the story. It wasn't just sort of throwing in a reference to, oh yeah, she was in Dalek when we first met her, wasn't she? And so, yeah, and it shows Missy being pretty mean again, just chucking her inside a Dalek and shutting up the casing, and also gives you somewhat of an insight into the Dalek and sort of how it works and how it sort of converts. Well, it can't say many things, can it, other than exterminate, really, can it? And I am a Dalek, that's about all it can say. So, yeah, you convert anything to, what was it? Cybermen delete emotions or something, and the Daleks channel them, I think it was, something. So that's why they keep shouting, exterminate, it fires the gun, sort of. Well, technically, but it kind of does, I guess, their thoughts sort of fire the gun, don't they? Yeah, well, it's an interesting sort of insight into how a Dalek works a bit more, because we don't, well, we get the odd sort of exploded Dalek seeing a shot inside, but seeing the actual sort of mechanics of how that creature controls all the weaponry and what it can say and this kind of thing was sort of a nice, maybe it's been explored in the audios and stuff, I'm sure it has, I haven't really heard much of that. So for this episode I thought that was really nice to sort of give a bit more of an insight. And so of course we get to the sort of the crux of the episode, if you like, which is the Doctor and Davros's sort of, not confrontation, but a sort of friendly chat that they have as Davros is dying in his sort of chamber area. And of course, classic joke, the only other chair on Skaro. I mean, that's Moffat right there. Literally that line just almost defines Moffat, I think. That's just perfect Moffat joke. And so, well, after the last episode we got past Davros's classic Who collection. I'm surprised he didn't have a bit of the Five Doctors playing in the background, or a bit of, the Twin Dilemma. Maybe if he wants to torture the Doctor, make him watch that again. Should be quite entertaining. But anyway, so yeah, they sort of, well, the Davros sort of sets his plan in motion. Not that we really know it at the time, but he sets his plan in motion, trying to convince the Doctor to take complete control of the Daleks. But clearly the Doctor would never do that, or destroy the Daleks. But, well, the Doctor did destroy the Daleks, though, didn't he? But then he didn't. Well, he used to, but now he hasn't. They're frozen. Oh, it's complicated, isn't it? All these changing up timelines. But yeah, the Doctor was never really going to take the whole of the life of the sort of that set of Daleks and just destroy them. So yeah, it was an attempt from Davros, but it didn't really work out for him. And so then we get the confession dial, of course. Davros referencing the confession dial because he knows about it, and of course the hybrid, everybody's favourite story arc of series 9, the hybrid. What is it? Is it half Dalek? Is it half Time Lord? And all this sort of stuff that just had so much promise at this point in the series. It was such, I remember seeing sort of people saying, oh, I wonder if they'll have how good this sort of CGI Time Lord Dalek mesh will look, or any sort of hybrid creature that we would have seen in the finale, and how they'd sort of create that and it would look pretty impressive. But we got none of that really, did we? It was kind of an unfulfilling story arc, or plot arc, or whatever you want to call it, for the series. So that was a bit disappointing. But at the time, it was nice and intriguing that the Doctor had been lying about why he'd run away from Gallifrey, and that he'd actually been running from the hybrid that apparently he had helped create. And then were they now creating new hybrids with the Davros's sort of a mixture of the Doctor's regeneration energy and a bit of those cables into the Dalek? Was that creating the hybrid there and then, or had it been already created? Oh, it's all a bit confusing. Is that another separate hybrid that they were trying to symbolise or suggest? So yeah, the hybrid arc didn't work, but it was interesting at this point. And of course we had Davros supposedly dying there. It actually, well, I was fooled for a fair few minutes. It legitimately looked like Davros was turning a bit good, a bit sort of, what's the word? I can't remember the word. I really should know that word. Anyway, but yeah, he's kind of turning good at the end. There's a word for that, I can't remember what it is. But yeah, and it was sort of, it really fooled me because, well, he pulls off his, clearly Davros is a good actor as well as Julian Bleach. He knows how to fake his illness, and, well, was he actually ill? Yeah, he probably was dying, wasn't he? Just, the Doctor kind of helped him out with a cheeky bit of regeneration energy after they had a little bit of a disturbing chuckle. Davros's laugh is very strange, isn't it? So yeah, Davros's laugh is unnerving, and they just have a little chuckle, little laughter. Seeing Davros's eyes, and that, have we actually seen Davros's proper eyes ever? Even back to like Genesis, and well, obviously we see it in this episode when he's not a bit deformed. But I feel like before that, I don't think we've ever actually sort of seen Davros's eyes properly. So in those last moments, it was nice to have that little sort of, well, supposedly his last moments. It was nice to have that sort of looking into Davros's actual eyes, not just his little blue eye up there. that apparently does a better job than these, well, who knows really, with Davros. And so he's got the Doctor fooled, he's got us, well, me fooled, maybe he didn't fool you, maybe you always knew he was going to turn again. But was he actually going to turn, or was he not? And then, as soon as that regeneration energy appears, the Doctor starts shaking his hand, and BAM! Davros is not good. He is the character we've always known him and loved him for. Yeah, loved Davros. I mean, so I saw some comments from people saying that sort of it would have been nice character development if that had been Davros turning good in his last moments as he's dying and this kind of thing. But one, Davros shouldn't die because he's such a great character and he's got to come back. And two, Davros is evil. Davros is a bad guy. He's not going to turn good. So it was great scheming and planning. He's that sort of he's always done that throughout the sort of his stories. He's always been a great schemer and planning out sort of what all these intricate plot plans that he's going to use to try and sort of, well, capture the Doctor or various different invasion plots and stuff. But yeah, so he tried to regenerate the whole race of the Daleks, and presumably Davros has sort of been repaired and he's sort of back to fairly full health again. He looked better, didn't he, when we see his last moments there. So I think that he's probably, well, he should return in Series 10. I'll mention that a bit later, but I think he's sort of a bit more back to normal. But then the whole city was blowing up, wasn't it? Oh, we'll come to that. So, well, cutting back, we of course, while this is going on, we still get the odd shot, the odd cut back to Clara and Missy, as Clara in the Dalek, leading Missy back into the actual city and into the sort of main control room, if you like. I'm not sure what you would call it. And we get a sort of minor swearing from Missy, which was an interesting move from Moffat. I'm slightly surprised that the BBC didn't block that out, but I guess the show was on at like 8:30 at that point, so they could probably get away with it a bit more. But I don't think you can imagine people saying that in 1960s or 1970s Doctor Who, so it's a bit of a change, but it doesn't bother me at all. Just, it was fine, made sense. Missy's that sort of slightly off-the-wall character, so it doesn't seem feasible that she would use some language like that. So that was all right. And then we get sort of where we get Missy and the Supreme Dalek having well, at least Missy sort of having a nice little chat with the Supreme Dalek, stroking some certain parts of the Dalek that we won't mention. The Dalek's unmentionables, as I believe Missy coined it in the end of part 1. And they have a little chat, and of course Missy, classic Master style, betrays Clara and offers Clara to the Daleks because she's evil basically, and that's how she rolls. That's what she does. So she offers them her. Of course, that kind of all gets thrown out the window when the Daleks all switch off and start having regeneration energy glowing from above them. Which, well, then it's all, oh dear. This is Missy's kind of like, what has the Doctor done? This is all just gone completely wrong. And also, once the Daleks have been sort of done their regeneration-y bit, and then they have that shot of the Supreme Dalek where he says like, we are more powerful than ever before or something, and it may have just been just me, but I think that the shot that they used for that and that sort of line might be harking back to the very end of Genesis of the Daleks, when they had that shot of one of the Black Daleks at the end just after they've exterminated Davros, and he's just sort of, I can't remember the exact line, but it's like they're sort of going to take over the universe or something. I just remember watching that and thinking, with that shot and with the line they used there, it just reminded me of that scene massively. So I think that was another nice nod to the 70s, sorry, and to Davros' first story. So that was nice, sort of not obviously noticeable referencing, which is when it goes over the top, but it made sense in the story, and it was nice to reference back. So let me know if you think that was also a reference to that sort of the end of Genesis of the Daleks or not. Maybe you think it's nothing to do with that and I'm just making stuff up, but I thought that was sort of slightly linked there, which was nice. So then we get the last sort of few minutes when Missy goes and helps the Doctor out, because they don't hate each other. I was watching the Doctor Who Extra and stuff on the DVD, or the Blu-ray, and Moffat was saying, oh yeah, they're friends really. This is a very complex relationship, and they're kind of friends. So Missy helps the Doctor out, helps him escape. Although, and then we of course find out that the Doctor sort of has his plan all along, that it's all about the sewers and putting the. Well, maybe I might have interpreted. Sorry, why can't I speak? The plot wrong. Let me know if I have. But isn't it essentially that regeneration energy that he used was zapped into every Dalek, including all the sewer Daleks, which would have started regenerating them and waking them up, which then caused them to come up through all the floors and destroy this and sort of cause the city to implode almost, if you like. So I'm fairly sure that's how the plot went down, because I didn't get that initially because I'm a bit slow, but I think I've established that now. So I guess the Doctor always had to sort of use that regeneration energy in there, and obviously he was in a bit of pain, which seemed fairly real. But I'm not quite sure what he would have done if Missy hadn't come and sort of blown up the whole thing to stop the regeneration energy from keep on pouring out. And also, how much regeneration energy did he actually lose there? I mean, it was a good 2 or 3 minutes where it was pumping out of him into the sort of all the cables and stuff. So I feel like he must have lost more than just he'll be slightly short in one of his future regenerations. So that could be a plot point to come in the future if he's like 1 regeneration down on that. But we don't even know how many he has anymore, do we? He sort of implies that he has an unlimited number. Wasn't it in Kill the Moon? I think he implied that he had sort of a lot of lives. So I don't think that'll ever become particularly important, really. So shouldn't need to worry about it too much. So yeah, then of course, well, the Doctor's plan. The Doctor's always in control, as we see. That the Doctor is clever. It's kind of harking back somewhat to the opening sequence, where the Doctor always assumes he's going to win. He already had planned it all out, had it all worked out. Well, he's probably working it out as he was going along to some degree. That's how the Doctor rolls, kind of, isn't it? But yeah, and then as soon as sort of it looks like Davros is in control, and then the Doctor's in control as soon as Missy gets there. So, and then it all blows up. It's all explosions everywhere. Daleks exploding and being crushed. Missy actually gets to poke Davros' eye out, which was a great, well, that's another Moffat moment there, isn't it? That's just sort of really love that line and that little moment referencing back to the first part, of course, where she says, "I'll poke his eye out because she's not your the Doctor's arch enemy anymore." So yeah, it's a nice moment, and of course that's where we last see Davros. Davros is left there, seemingly to die, but of course we know that in virtually every Davros story, he is left to die at the end of the episode, and he always comes back. So there's absolutely 0% doubt that he'll be back. Hopefully, I hope for a Series 10 finale with Missy and Davros and Daleks and everything, and it will be epic and amazing. And that's what I'm hoping for Moffat's Swan Song, because of course Missy's trapped on, well, last thing we see, she's trapped on Skaro, and she just sort of does the Italian, if you've seen the movie The Italian Job style, I've just had a really great idea, which is literally the end of The Italian Job. If you haven't seen it, it's such a great film. Go watch it. But yeah, and I thought, so that's obviously what I first think of when I hear that line, just because I've seen that movie so many times. But yeah, and so she has a plan, but what is it when she's surrounded by Daleks in an exploding city? Find out in Series 10 is hopefully what will happen. I really want her back with Davros and Daleks. We need that. When we need a sort of another Dalek story to round up Series 10, I think, personally. So then, well, we nearly sort of... Actually, it was quite slightly before Missy's captured. We, of course, get the Clara and a Dalek facing the Doctor, and that sort of really tense scene of, is the Doctor going to exterminate Clara inside the Dalek? I mean, that would have been a pretty bold move if Moffat had gone with that and actually had the Doctor exterminate Clara in there. And I feel like if that had been a sort of an episode 10, maybe they could have got away with that. If that had sort of been faced, if they completely forget what they did as an actual ending for Clara, and had sort of this as an episode maybe 10 or 11, and have her killed inside that Dalek, and then it opens as it's sort of exterminated and we see a dead Clara in there. I mean, that would be literally, the Doctor would probably turn it on Missy. You wouldn't be surprised if he just turned the gun on, or the, yeah, let's call it a gun on Missy, and try and exterminate her, and then he'd obviously go and try and go back in time, and it'll cause collapse and problems. We could probably even link it back to Hellbent anyway, couldn't you? Yeah, just be going back to Gallifrey now. Yeah, yeah. See, if you just replace Face of the Raven with The Witch is Familiar and have the Doctor kill Clara at the end of the episode, well, and insert the teleport in, you can get Missy to give him the teleport, and then we can easily set up Heaven Sent and Hellbent all over again. Just slightly change the dynamic of he caused her death instead of her causing her death. Well, although he kind of feels like he caused her death as well. So, but anyway, that's for a later video. So yeah, it was a really tense scene, particularly after, of course, we knew that Jenna Coleman was leaving. Although we kind of knew it wasn't this episode because we'd seen the filming pictures, as I mentioned last week, with part 1. So, but it was a tense moment with the Doctor. Really, you could see his anger. He didn't want to believe that Clara was actually dead, because he knew that he assumed that Missy's alive, Clara's alive, it's all good. And so, but of course, then you get the whole mercy line with the Dalek, which of course we did hear in the Big Bang, but that was a stone Dalek and it was a different situation, wasn't it? I'm sure someone's explained why that isn't sort of a normal, it's like a destroyed Dalek or something, isn't it? So it didn't quite fit. It didn't really matter in this context sort of thing. But yeah, so then the casing opens and it's Clara, and we get angry Doctor looking at Missy, his ragey eyes of, "You better run before I come and exterminate you. Hey!" And so yeah, she runs off, she gets captured, and we'll see her again in Series 10 hopefully. And we get to the final few scenes of the Doctor, just the Doctor and Clara Oswald in the TARDIS, as they're just sort of chilling there in the middle of an exploding Dalek city as the hostile action dispersal distribution system reforms and the TARDIS reappears as the Doctor gets his sonic sunglasses, which are fabulous. I love the sonic one. Well, the sonic sunglasses are really good. Of course, it's nice to have the screwdriver back now, but I think it's fine if he wants to sort of use a bit of both. Maybe the sunglasses are a bit more limited in capacity or something. Maybe you need the screwdriver for certain things, but it's nice to have a bit of a mix-up. Lots of people didn't like it, but don't moan about it. It's a nice little change. But I can see, to be fair, why people were annoyed with it and annoyed with Moffat, because Moffat said that he did it almost to annoy fans, which although I like the sonic sunglasses, I don't think that's the best way for a showrunner to write. You don't want to write it so that it will annoy the fans. Why does that make any logical sense, that you want to make it so that the fans won't like it? To me, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So, although I like the sonic sunglasses, Moffat's reason for introducing them is stupid. It just is. So, yeah, that was Moffat shouldn't have said that. He shouldn't have said that line. He could have done it, just not mention anything why he did it. That would be better than saying, "Oh yeah, I was trying to annoy the fans." And it's just no. That's not how TV or anything works. You don't piss off your fans. So yeah. But I like the sonic sunglasses. They're a nice change up, even if they're introduced for the wrong reasons. And that brings the TARDIS back, and then they dematerialise away together in the TARDIS again, looking nice and happy, and life is great pretty much. And then they just they're standing on the edge of the city, watching it all explode and collapse, where Davros and Missy and the Daleks are in there somewhere. And actually, this is where I want to pick up on one of the more general points of sort of a criticism, if you like, of this episode, which is that the Daleks are terrible in this episode. And yes, they are. But this isn't a Dalek story, it's a Davros story. This is a story about the Doctor betraying or leaving Davros on a battlefield and then trying to make it up to him by trying to help him when he's in need, when he's supposedly dying. And it's about Davros trying to sort of bring the Daleks back to power again and create them as a big force again. So it's not, although we get lots of Daleks and it's nice to see them, it's not meant to be a Dalek story, and there's no opportunity. And of course you get the criticism of, they didn't exterminate anyone, or they just sort of exterminated Missy and Clara, but they didn't even die anyway, so it doesn't really count. So they didn't exterminate them, but there was no one to exterminate. There is literally no one else on Skaro for them to go and kill, so how are they meant to kill anyone? And this wasn't meant to be an invasion story where they go out to other planets and invade, because that's the only way the Daleks can actually exterminate. So that's one of the criticisms I've seen of the episode, which I think is completely invalid, that you just got to sort of look at it as a Davros story, not a Dalek story. Most of the once Davros came in Classic Who, Genesis was certainly a Davros story. Destiny of the Daleks was quite a Davros story as well, wasn't it? Revelation wasn't quite... Resurrection, that was a bit more Daleks, and then I think Revelation was a bit more Daleks as well, and then Remembrance was very much Daleks with a little bit of Davros in the end. But a lot of the classic stories were very much more focused on Davros than the Daleks. The Daleks were just sort of another smaller part of the episode, whereas Davros, the more interesting character, because he's a proper character and not just a screaming machine kind of thing. So that's why it was understandable, sort of, for me, that it'd be much more focused on Davros rather than on the Daleks. And because, of course, that's where it was slightly poorly written in Journey's End, where Davros is very much a secondary character, just left off in a basement with a fairly unimportant role, where he's just sort of almost a prisoner or a pet of the Daleks, I think they might have called him. Where it's a Dalek story with a little bit of Davros, whereas this is a Davros story with a little bit Dalek, I think. So that's a criticism that I don't think is valid, but people like to criticise, so that's how it works sometimes. And also, I was watching some of the documentaries where they gave a legitimate explanation of why, because I hadn't realised this, why there's lots of different types of Daleks on the Skaro city, and it's basically because, well, Moffat says at least, that the Daleks wouldn't all look the same. There would be different sort of classes and races and factions of Daleks, which actually that's sort of, Revelation has a little bit of that, the different factions, isn't it? But yeah, so, whereas often they'll look the same in the sort of invasion fleets we get, all the gold ones go to Earth and this kind of stuff, that's probably just, or Moffat says, that's probably just a certain batch of sort of, I don't know, warrior Daleks or something who are going out to this invasion, whereas in the actual city they have all the different types of Daleks with the different sort of roles, factions, and sort of batches, even maybe species as well of Daleks. So I thought that was a nice little explanation, which I hadn't sort of stumbled across before, of why Davros decided to make lots of different Daleks. And also, of course, Davros, just the quick line of Daleks made Skaro again because they wanted to. They wanted their city back. They had a strong concept of home, wasn't it? Something? Sorry. So that they wanted to bring their city back, and so they rebuilt Skaro, which was nice for them to do. So yeah, that's sort of addressing some of the criticisms of this episode, I feel, which are invalid because it is such a great episode overall, I think. And so we get on to the last scene, where the Doctor realises why that Dalek could say mercy, why it was capable of saying mercy. And because, of course, the Doctor had to introduce that sense of mercy. And so he goes back in time, and we finally, after 46 of the 47 minutes, get the actual cliffhanger scene going again, where the Doctor, I mentioned it last week, and this episode did confirm that he was just over-dramatically shouting exterminate for the cliffhanger. He didn't need to say anything, because Missy did it when she came in to knock down when the Doctor's being held by all the cables to shoot them down. She doesn't say anything to do that, so clearly you don't have to say anything to make the gun work or anything like that. So he just did it for dramatic effect, which was, well, that's how TV works. It was a bit unnecessary, but did it in all very serious tones, like he'd been in a ragey moment, even though he was pretty chilled and happy at that point because it'd all been sorted out. So slightly strange the way that it was sort of done, but I guess it's all just for dramatic effect, really, isn't it? But it was really nice, that last scene, with, as long as there's it doesn't really matter what sides they're on, as long as there's mercy, always mercy. And I thought that's just a really poignant end to the episode, poignant moment to finish a classic story, really, as this is, with the Doctor and young Davros walking away together, and what ultimately could have introduced slightly, well, mercy into the Daleks. So maybe on the odd occasion where the Daleks don't kill. I mean, is that in Dalek Series 1? Was it that episode? Well, of course that was where the Dalek was all messed up, which is why he wasn't killing everybody. But I feel like there was I'm sure it was a Dalek story where there was sort of this talk about how the Daleks don't always kill everyone. Sometimes they'll let someone go. Or maybe that was in when I was watching Series 1. I can't remember. Let me know if you remember that. I'm sure there's an episode where they talk about how on the odd occasion they'll sort of have mercy. The person they're about to kill gets lucky and they get to leave and escape. Maybe that was nothing to do with Daleks, but I'm fairly sure it was, so that would a nice link back if that is the case, or maybe I'm just misremembering. But yeah, so that was The Witch is Familiar. A fantastic second part, even better than the first part, to complete an all-round classic story, which I feel, for me personally at least, is probably in my sort of top 10, top 15 stories of all time in Doctor Who, I would say. It's just everything about it. It just sort of has, the two-parter has all the ingredients for a classic episode, and it really performs, if you like. You've got Davros, Daleks, the Master, a brilliant incarnation of the Doctor. You've got a unit. You've got all these different planets they go round to. You've got Skaro. I mean, it's just got a bit of everything really to make a great story, and it all comes together to create, personally, a masterpiece. So I believe I gave the second part 9.3 out of 10, so I really do rate it very highly, combining with an 8.3 out of 10 for the first part. I said 8.2 last week, actually I changed my mind. 8.3, which gives you what? 8.8 out of 10 for the two-parter, which is pretty high rating for me, because a lot of mine I've rated a little bit low, so this is a proper great story. And I urge you that if you sort of don't find it that enjoyable, give it another try, because there's a lot to get out of this story if you're sort of a bit more open-minded, rather than just saying, oh, it's a Moffat story, I won't like it, or oh, the Daleks are rubbish in this episode, I don't really like it. So I feel like there's sort of some of the criticisms that just don't need to come from this episode, and then it's a lot. It's really, really good. It's just got so many great scenes, and the Doctor and Davros, great chemistry there. Clara and Missy, fantastic partnership, and it's disappointing we'll never get to see any more of that. And then of course the Doctor and Clara coming back together at the end. They're only actually together for like 3 minutes of the two-parter, really, aren't they? They spend almost the whole of the 2 episodes apart from each other, so they don't really have they don't have that many great scenes together, but there's still the odd nice one in the sort of, just the Doctor and Clara in the TARDIS at the end is obviously a lovely scene between the two of them. So, well, that's pretty much, I'm going to start rambling if I keep on going on, so that's pretty much all there is to say about The Witch is Familiar. Very highly rate, I rate this story very highly, and I recommend go and watch it again if you haven't seen it recently, or if you have mixed feelings on it, because it's a great story. So, well, follow me on Twitter if you want to, at EMSDW44, where I will always give updates on my videos when I'm recording them, what I'm recording, because I'm going to record a few extras, not just these Series 9 reviews. There's a few other things coming you're going to watch out for, which I'm quite pleased about, and a few, maybe something even more completely different. I'm trying to expand this channel, so I'm looking at something along with the music related videos and the review videos. I've got something else in the pipeline as well, which I'm hoping that you'll all like when I get around to actually doing it, but I'm excited to do it, so I'll keep stum for now, but you'll find out soon enough. And so yeah, follow me on Twitter for any updates on any of my videos and my opinions on what's going on in Doctor Who at the moment. And sometimes I'll live tweet the episodes as well. I was doing a little bit of live tweeting on Witch is Familiar actually, I think, yesterday, which was the 17th of March, because you're watching this and it's like the 26th, 7th, something like that. But yeah, I was watching it on the 17th of March and recording this the 18th. So yeah, if you go back through my timeline, you'll probably able to spot some tweets about The Witch is Familiar. The nice sort of, I did a few nice shots. Actually, well, something I forgot to mention was, of course, Skaro. We've seen lots more shots of Skaro and the CGI in this. Of course, I mentioned this a lot last week, but it just looks fabulous. I mean, the CGI is just so incredible for the whole, and they obviously, because they did such a good job of it, they used as many shots as they could of it. And with all those Daleks rising up from the city, it just looks stunning, really, I think. But anyway, that's just a minor point. So yeah, I'm in it. I'm EMS Productions. Remember to like, subscribe if you're new here, and I'll see you very soon for another Doctor Who review video. Goodbye.